Hey, what's up guys, this is Liam or Wiggle on Clickheads back with a new video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Sage, my favorite agent in Valorant, but also a character that many are considering to be overtuned, and I've even seen some pro players and streamers dodge competitive games when they don't get a Sage on their team. So today I want to take a look at her kit, offer up some tips on how to use it, and ultimately come to the conclusion of whether she should receive some kind of a nerf down the line or any other changes or fixes the community can think of. What I find interesting about Sage is when you weigh her up against other almost must picks in the game. There's a few of them in Cypher, Brimstone, and Breach. But when you take an agent like Brimstone, even though his utility is really good and very versatile to be used on defense or attack in pretty much any situation, no one feels like that kit is super overpowered or oppressive, even though his smokes are insane. And what this comes down to, in my opinion, is that Sage's utility isn't just good on attack and defense, it's actually insane, and particularly on attack is severely underutilized. For starters, Sage is the only healer in the game. Yes, some other characters can heal themselves in some circumstances, but Sage can heal other agents up to 100 health. And this can be done 3 or 4 times a round. In fact, in some games when I've played her, I've managed to rack up 25-30 assists, most of these through healing alone. I think people's first impression on a healer in a game like this would be that, well, everyone headshots, right? Well, that's not actually true in any context. And even at the pro play, the heal's being used constantly. And it's something, especially on pistol rounds, ecos, and any late game round, is incredibly powerful if the enemy team don't also have it. And if you compare it to someone like Phoenix, who can actually heal himself, well, this is only once a round, not anyone he chooses multiple times per round. And Sage's heal doesn't have any drawbacks either, where if your team touch it, like Phoenix's, they get deep fried and won't be back until the next round. But the healing is only where things begin with Sage, because her wall utility is amongst the most insane in the entire game. Now, I think that this gets used as a blocking tool at the start of many rounds way too early, especially when there's so much more depth to it. And the better the Sage player, generally, you're going to see some crazier things from this utility. Now, personally, my favorite 2 places to use it are to trick someone into think I'm falling back, or actually to wall off a lane to make an aggressive push, whether it is just to trick the enemy on any round. But I particularly like it when we're on a buy round and I like to run down Haven mid, wall off the window, and our whole team takes the duel on the right hand side. This is particularly good with shotguns, but is also on a knife's edge of throwing if you get it wrong. Obviously, some places are well known to be boost spots for Sage and her team, so you've got to utilize them in the right context, or else you're using what could be an incredibly good late round defensive tool in a very bad way. And even though them decisions aren't necessarily easy to make, just them brief examples provide very good context of how powerful this wall can be. Another thing that I think people forget about the wall, even though it got nerfed, is that yes, it's easier to destroy now, but when you only destroy one of the many parts that the wall is made of, you're still funneling down a lane into this tight gap, which is also very easy for Sage and her team to set up free kills on. I'm personally not sure if I think the wall is okay in its current state or not, but when you combine it with the slow orbs, which is the other area of denial tool Sage has, that's where she really starts to look crazy, because we all know the slow orbs are amazing and that when you're in them, you're basically screwed. But again, these are used quite preemptively a lot of the time to stop a really fast push that's coming at you. But what you really want to do with Sage is to catch people in the middle of your slow orb. You want to bounce it off of a wall behind them, which is very easy to do, by the way, so that the enemy have no choice but to be caught in the middle of it. And when you really catch the enemy team with their pants down like this, it just cleans up the entire round. And the thing is, you get 2 of these things and they're also really, really cheap. My other favorite use for these than just catching an enemy team in the middle of a push is to try and combo it with a brimstone ult, especially if you can read that an enemy team is pushing a certain angle or lane at the start of a round. If you hit a slow orb on them, there's no way they're getting out. And me and my friends have cleaned up 3 or 4 frags at the start of a round and straight up winning rounds just based off of doing this. And then you've still got another one. That's what's insane. And I also think that the slow orbs are very easy to use, very predictable on where they're going to arc, and it's very easy to land them where you want. And honestly, if we're going to start talking nerfs in this video in the next couple of minutes, slow orbs may need a bit of tweaking, and I think they probably need to be a little bit smaller and harder to use, because right now you are not pushing through them. They're better than most of the smokes in the game at denying an enemy pushing a site, and even though that they can still see you, it really just doesn't matter. Now, last up, we have Resurrect, which I also rate as one of the best ultimates in the game. Some people rate it lower than I do, but turning any 1v1 into a 2v1, or if you're a man down and you make it even, I think that that is pretty undeniably amazing. Now, you don't come back with your armor, but a lot of the time that doesn't make a difference. And even though it's not as good as, say, Phoenix's ultimate, where he gets a free life for himself for free, it's still rated up there as one of the best ultimates in the entire game. So when it comes to, is Sage overpowered? I think the question for me is her utility extremely strong for how easy most of it is to use? Now, yes, a lot of the utility in the game is quite simple, but even someone that's really strong like Breach has got to hit their flashbang just right, and especially his stun. Brimstone needs to time his smokes at the right time, whereas I feel like Sage has so many options available to her all of the time that maybe that's where she is just a little bit too good, but she doesn't feel extremely overpowered. And one thing that always comes into extremely competitive games like this is pick and ban. Now, we won't be seeing pick and ban anytime soon. However, there's a big misconception that there aren't enough characters. If there's 12 characters in a game and the loser in a competitive scenario at pro play gets to ban one character, that's not really oppressive, and it does allow characters like Sage to maybe not be in the game. And what I do find funny thinking about it is that if there was a pick and ban system in ranked, most people would be banning Raze right now, even though she's not as good as people think she is. So that's one way you could clear her up. The other option for me would be don't let her heal as much. It's great to feel like you have a healer on your team, but being able to do it 3 times a round or so, netting in like 30 assists a game, may be a little bit too much. I think that her wall is probably good as it is, and her most oppressive utility is definitely in the slow orbs. They're very easy to use, and if they maintain that, I think that the area of effect needs to be smaller, or there needs to be another way of outplaying it. This all being said, guys, I main Sage, and I nearly made Immortal yesterday, so I'm just going to keep playing her. I really like her, but I think it's very good to have healthy discussions on whether or not a character may be a little bit too good or not. So let me know what you think. As always, in the comments section down below, we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and of course discuss. The game's still in beta, and I'm sure that some of these characters will be tuned for when the game is released sometime in the summer. Let me know what you think. Be sure to drop a like, guys, as it does help us out and lets us know you're enjoying the content, and we're nearly at 35,000 subscribers, so be sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live, and don't forget to have a great day as always. Take care and peace, people.
Enemy removed.
There's one somewhere.
One enemy remaining.
Nice, mate.